Hello, everyone. Want to do something fun that I'm hoping people who watch this actually participate in the comments, which is, I teach so much history, and who are the top five historical figures that had the biggest impact I put on Europe? And, it would be fun after you watch this to maybe put your top five in the comments. And I only picked Europe. I didn't do the United States or the Middle East or Asia. And I have to say, as I put together this list from all my years of study, I probably changed this list myself many times, putting this little lecture together. So there's obviously a lot of ideas that can go into this. But given all that, I'm going to go ahead and start with my top five and just say a little bit about each one and why. And we'll start with number five. Napoleon. Napoleon is definitely one of my favorite people to talk about. If I had to pick the most interesting life story, it would be Napoleon. I mean, if you took every Hollywood writer, put them together, I don't think they could create a life story as crazy as Napoleon's. In terms of significance, I wouldn't put him, ahead of the next few people I'm going to mention, but he's very important. Obviously, he conquered so much of Europe in a short time period, military genius, the Napoleonic Code. He's also very complex, and on one hand, people can describe him as an authoritarian dictator. On the other hand, he's spreading the ideas of the Enlightenment. So, Napoleon is definitely one of those important individuals from European history that we can mention. Number four, Gutenberg. Now, Gutenberg is a name that often is number one on many lists. And I get why people put him there because, Gutenberg invents the print, the movable type, printing press idea. And, with his invention, all the ideas that come out in the 1500s, 1600s can spread. But I never put him number one because my argument is he doesn't come up with those ideas, right? But his device allows the Reformation, scientific revolution, medicine, political ideas, and so you get the French Revolution, the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, as I mentioned, the Protestant Reformation. A lot of those events don't happen without the Gutenberg press, so pretty important in that sense. There's an old saying: if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, with this Gutenberg guy, it makes a big sound and makes dramatic changes in European history and really the globe. So I think he's a pretty important guy. All right, who do I have for number three? Constantine. Went back a little bit for this guy. I was tempted to put a bunch of more ancient people in here because they're often discounted. But Constantine was Roman emperor, and he's interesting, of course, and important because he's the Roman emperor who converted to Christianity. There is a big debate on this, whether it was because Constantine converted to Christianity that much of Europe converted to Christianity, or if Constantine was more kind of bandwagon, kind of joining the spread, and he kind of jumped on board. And depending on how you see that, depends on how you would see how significant he is. But even without that, he was a major Roman emperor, played a big role in building up the eastern part of Rome, which becomes, the Byzantium Empire, and so he's pretty important just for that as well. So definitely I could see him somewhere, in the top five, if not top 10 at least. So Constantine, there's a lot of other ancient figures as well we can mention, but I put him as number three. All right, number two. Churchill, and I put Churchill plus. And what do I mean by that? Churchill doesn't usually make it into the top list of a lot of these because his time in significance was pretty narrow. In fact, much of his life, Winston Churchill failed at many things. But of course, during World War II, I oftentimes look at this period around 1940 when the world was collapsing, and it was this guy Churchill, and I put the plus because it's not just Churchill. It was all the people who had the courage to stand up and to get people out of this unbelievable darkness during this time period. So whether it was Churchill or the Queen's mom or the military men and the veterans who fought and risked so much to get rid of this, soul destroying ideologies of the 20th century, I think obviously really important. Where would our world be if the Nazis won, and it'd be a pretty scary world. And so people like Churchill and others made sure that didn't happen, which is a good transition to the number one. And the number one significant people, and I kind of cheated here. I picked two, and obviously I'm not picking these on if they're good people, but their significance. And I put Hitler and Stalin because the reason those two would be the most significant people is the sheer number of human lives they took. And in terms of that impact, it's so big we'll never even know it. Think of all the amazing people we lost, the writers, the scientists, the musicians. So much was lost because of these two individuals who murdered countless millions of people. And so it's unfortunate. There would be, I would say, the most significant impact on European history in the world. But these two men, for all the evil they did, had a tremendous effect on society. And again, we'll never fully know the effect because of what they took from so many. So that's the top five. There are, of course, many others. And just a few that I kind of put up here, Shakespeare, Queen Elizabeth I, Michelangelo in terms of art, Einstein, Charlemagne, Martin Luther. Again, there's many other Roman figures and Greek figures that you can include in this list. But definitely something to think about. And so definitely in the comments, go ahead and, put in who you think the top five are. And I think I can make this list in another week and probably change my mind on some of these. So I'd be really curious to see what you come up with. And of course, many of these individuals I talk about, I cover in all my lectures. So feel free again to subscribe and check out my lectures on so many of these individuals that had such a huge impact. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.